G'day lip rippers, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode. So I'd like to welcome everybody to a brand new segment in my channel, is the studio. So yeah, basically just got all my bit of fishing gear and my laptop and everything there. It's where I edit my videos and do all that cool stuff. So a lot of you guys keep asking me about my gear, my line, rods, reels, tackle, lures, all the bits and bobs. So what I decided to come up with was a studio like this, where when the weather's not too good, windy or rainy, or if I've got a little bit of spare time, I can pump through a few tackle talks and go over a little bit of old footage and talk about lures, gear reviews, reels, rods, anything that I think is significant, any of the products I use, just to help you guys to get a little bit more understanding, a little bit more knowledge, and hopefully it helps. So this is the first ever one, so please comment down below if this is something that you enjoyed, and also any ideas that you guys want me to talk about. If I like the idea and I think I could talk about it, I will make a video. So drop a comment down below of some ideas of what you guys want me to talk about, and anytime I get questions I can always refer you guys to certain videos about tackle talk. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So please, if you do enjoy this, give me a thumbs up. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and we'll get into it. So this is the very first one in the new studio. So we're going to talk about bass lures. Now, I'm going to go my top 5 surface bass lures of all time. So in these videos, these are my top 5. So there is so many different lures out there on the market for bass or any kind of fish, but these are the ones that I use a lot of, and these are the ones I have most success on. So we'll get into it. As always, we're going to start with number 5 and we'll leave the best to last. So hopefully you guys get some knowledge out of these videos and helps you get out in the water and catch more fish. So let's get into it with number 5. Alright guys, so this is my number 5 on my list of top water bass lures. It is a MMD splash prawn in the 70mm. So obviously these lures are really good for brim, whiting, jacks, pretty much anything that eats prawns off surface will eat these. So a very, very handy, good lure to have in your tackle box. So I will be using these early morning for bass along shallow weeded banks. Obviously prawns like to hide around all the weeds, so it's a really good spot to throw those guys around, and also around the full moon periods when the prawns are pushed up in those big tides in the saltwater estuaries, and the prawns are really active around all of those freshwater creeks. Very, very good time to be throwing those guys around. So that's number 5, MMD splash prawn in the 70mm. Okay guys, so number 4 in my top water bass collection will be these guys here. So you can pretty much use any surface walkers that you want. I really like the Lucky Craft Sammies in the 65mm, just because they got a really nice wide wobble to them, very, very good quality, and they got a very big arrangement of different colors. Yeah, another different color there. Sometimes I run assist hooks on the back just to help with that hookup. Also very good for whiting, brim, all that type of thing as well. And also you can always go back down to your little sugar pens. They're always good. Just that skinnier little profile, flicks around the surface like a prawn. So yeah, I use these a lot in skinny water creeks. I try and target wherever the active herring are, and I'll be throwing those around early morning under the overhanging trees, shaded little pockets, and yeah, just around the herring schools. They just look like a little prawn or a little herring struggling on surface, and yeah, the bass absolutely love them. They fire, you can cast them in, they cast real long casts, and they just fire straight in there. You know, they kind of back into the snag, so that's really, really good too. So that's number 4. My number 3, I use this guy quite a lot. I really, really like these lures. So if you haven't seen these yet, so they're called a D-Style Reserve. So it's just like a little bait fish profile, but it's got wings. So it kind of looks like a bug, dragonfly, fish. There's a lot going on. It's just got the one treble hook in the middle. You can run the assist hooks from the towing point from the back. They are very, very handy to have, but they get tangled up in that treble hook a lot. Like every cast, you have to be very, very patient. But last few times I've just been running that single treble, and it's been, yeah, absolutely perfect. So these guys here, they casts not so great because of those wings. So sometimes you'll cast and the wings will come out and you won't get the distance. Sometimes you'll cast, the wings will fold up and it'll just shoot like an absolute bullet. So they are a little bit harder to throw around. They are quite expensive. I think they retail for about $35. So I would not be using these land-based, because if you get that stuck into a tree, you're probably going to lose it. So if you're in a kayak or a boat, and you can kind of punch little casts under overhanging trees, hard up against shaded banks, that's going to be your best shot, I reckon. If there's plenty of bugs or even bait fish in the area, low light periods, because it does make quite a fair bit of noise, this is a really good option. Basically it just hits the water and you can just give it a slow roll and it just flutters across, or you can just really let it sit there and you can just give your rod tip just tiny little jabs, and that's just going to go kind of little pulses, and you can really set it in that strike zone for as long as possible. So if you're casting deep into a snag, nice big lay down log, you can really just work it super slow and really tick the bass off, because they can't help themselves. Eventually they'll come out and eat that. So that is a D-style reserve. Awesome lure, a little bit expensive, but produces awesome fish. Coffee break. Okay guys, so it was very hard to choose these lures in an order for you guys, but they're basically my top 5, so I use these surface lures all the time. So number 2 on the lists are cicada lures. So this guy here is a chase bait ripple cicada. So these are quite a new range of lures by Chase Baits. They've come out, they've been out for a little bit, but yeah, just they just got a massive range of different colors, and these guys are a little bit cheaper than the other cicada I'm about to show you guys. So they've still got a nice soft body to them, little feather tail, they're pretty realistic, a little bit bigger, and they work pretty well. So I think I can get those for about $16 or something like that. So they're quite a cheap little option for a cicada for the quality you're getting. Normally for that kind of $15, you're going to buy a pretty dodgy looking cicada that won't work very well. But these are, yeah, they're pretty good quality for what you're getting. So I bought these just because they are that little bit cheaper. I never really used them before, and they work pretty good. But I'll show you guys my favorite cicada lure. So my favorite cicada lure of all time, and probably your all of you viewers probably would agree with me. It's no surprise, it is the Tiemco soft-shelled cicada. Now these things are absolute dynamite. They are a little bit more expensive. They're around the $25 mark, but the technology that you get is definitely worth it. This is why you pay more money for good quality lures, because they put a lot of technology into making them. They'll give them to a bunch of pros. They'll go out, fish them, say yes, they work awesome, no, this needs to be tweaked or whatever. And that's why you pay more money for them. When you're buying cheap lures, generally they'll just pump out a big batch of them and they'll just pump it straight out into the market without actually testing them. And that's why a lot of them won't swim. So please, if you guys want to catch more fish, spend that extra money. I know it hurts, but you'll catch more fish and you will understand why you're paying a little bit more for good quality lures. So that is the Tiemco soft-shelled cicada lure. That is by far the best cicada lure on the market. So very light, I think they're about 4 grams, so you need real light kind of 6 to 8 pound line to throw that on. The body is made of foam, so when it lands on the water, it doesn't create a big splash and spook the bass. It is very natural. If you can get that on an undercut bank with an overhanging tree and there's cicadas in the area, that thing is absolute dynamite, guys. I cannot praise that little lure there enough. Very small, very realistic, and it just catches so many fish. Okay guys, so my number 1, I personally don't throw them around heaps, but they are definitely my favorite lure to throw around because they are super versatile, they're super forgiving, and you can literally throw these anywhere and they will always come back to you. They are frog lures. Now there are quite a few on the market. I love these little Z-Man finesse frogs. I normally have two different colors. I'll have the black and blue, and then I'll have a plain white one. So depending on the day, if it's an overcast day, I like to throw a darker color lure because it casts a bit more of a silhouette. And then you can also get the bigger ones, the hard legs. They are quite a bit bigger. You still can catch bass on them. Your hookup ratio does go down because you just got the one weedless hook in the middle, but you still can definitely catch fish on the bigger profiles as well. So depending where I'm fishing and what I'm fishing for, obviously these guys are awesome for jacks as well and bass, and these smaller ones are probably more targeting bass in real skinny kind of kayak water. A couple more. These, so the Z-Man little finesse frogs there, they've basically got two little legs at the back, both paddle tails. You throw them out, they'll sit on the surface and you can roll them back and the little legs will paddle, create quite a fair bit of disturbance. The situation that I'm throwing this frog right now, that day, the night before, there was a lot of rain, so that's why I knew that the frog bite should be on. So as you can see, I've thrown into this snag. There's a nice big log coming out there, and I've just bring it straight over the log there, and I've given it a real, quite an aggressive roll back. I haven't paused it or anything. This is because I knew the frogs would be fired up, the bass would be fired up, so there was no reason for me to be pausing it in between. All right, the big release, mate, the big release. Beautiful little bass. See you, bud. All right, let's hope we can get a few more. So we're back. So yeah, so that's the little finesse frogs. So you can work them like in that little clip that I just showed you guys. You can just give it a constant roll if the bass are really fired up and they're really searching on that surface frog. But you can also skip cast it right under there and give it a couple of rod twitches and just let it sit there in around the structure, and they will eventually come and eat it as well. So the reason why I like frogs is just because they're super versatile. I can put a weedless hook on that and I can really skip it so deep into snags. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's super forgiving. You know, they're just a bit of rubber and they just come straight through the trees. They're a really, really good lure to have in your tackle box. There are also these guys here. So these are awesome, super realistic frogs by Imakatsu. These frogs are absolutely awesome. So they're a little bit lighter than the Z-Man finesse frogs, so you really have to punch your cast a lot harder. So these little guys are good for if you're in a kayak and you're doing real short kind of casts into like a really steep overhanging bank. These are the ones that you want. They don't have really any movement, but you put a little weedless hook in there and you just give your rod tip, couple of pops, and it just looks like a tiny little frog just popping on the surface. Super realistic. These are really, really good. They're a little bit expensive for what they are, but they're super realistic, and the bass just absolutely love them. And one more frog profile to finish off my top 5 water surface bass lures is this little guy here. I'll get a little bit of cardboard there, so there he is. So this is just a little Lunker Hunt pocket frog. So you can see those little legs, you can see how much they move. Look at that little guy go. So yeah, super realistic, really small lure. It is weedless. It's got two trebles there, two hooks. So it's just one hook with 2 points on the back. So you're doubling your chances for those weedless frogs. And yeah, this guy's awesome. He's got a little bit of weight to him. You can really punch it up into those snags, and those little legs, you just give your rod tip little punches and those little legs just splash around. Super realistic. It's probably one of the best frogs on the market for sure. Super realistic. Love it. Look at these little legs. Alright guys, so that was my top 5 top water bass lures of all time. So like I said, that's my list, that's what I like to use. So hopefully you guys haven't tried a few of those lures and you would like to check them out. For leaders, I like to run FC Rock in most of my leaders just because I think it's value for money, really, really good, super accessible, and it's actually really, really good leader. Probably one of the better leaders I've ever used. So I use between 10 pound and 6 pound. depending what lure I am using. So a lot of the cicadas, D-Style Reserve, splash prawn walkers, I'll use 10 pound. And if I'm going down to those frogs, sometimes I'll drop it down to 6, just because the weight of the fluorocarbon leader, it can pull down those frogs and the head goes down underwater and you won't get that top water action that you want. So if you are having trouble with your frogs sinking, then you need to put a lighter leader on. 10 pounds a really good all-rounder. I fish 8 pound braid, 10 pound leader for most of my bass fishing. You know, obviously the Sammy walkers, they're, you know, 20-25 bucks a lure, so you want to have a little bit of reinsurance to hopefully not lose a fish. So that's it, guys. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Let me know your top 5 top water bass lures of all time. I'm assuming a couple of those would definitely be in people's lists, especially the Tiemco soft-shelled cicada. Yeah, it's a real tough one. Between that and the frogs, for me, really is pretty much a tie. But as long as you got those two in your tackle box and the top water bite is on, you're going to have a great time. The frogs are awesome for that skinny country. You can really just punch it up in there and don't have to worry about losing a $2 frog. But the Tiemco soft-shelled cicada is super realistic. And if you're fishing dams or in a kayak or a boat or a big open area, really good to be throwing those around. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the episode. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and let me know if this is something that you enjoyed. Hopefully you guys got something out of it, and until next time, we'll create another video. Anyway, guys, take care out there, and yeah, see you guys soon. Lip rippers, yee-hoo, go the boys.